Hi and welcome back. We're going to take a few minutes now to talk about the order of operations in algebra. And what this refers to is the order in which we perform multiplication, division, addition, and subtraction, particularly on problems with a lot of terms. And the reason this is important is because it gives everyone the same level playing field when they encounter a problem, so there's no question as to which operations they should perform first. If people follow the rules, everyone should be able to get to the same answer. A good analog of this would be the English language. There are also rules in the English language to avoid vagaries and make it clear what people are talking about. A good example would be the following. Take the seats out of the cars so they can be repaired. The pronoun here is they, and it has multiple antecedents. So one could ask, are we taking the seats out of the cars so the seats can be repaired, or the cars? Well, most people would state this a little more clearly in the first place, but the rule here is that the pronoun they refers to the noun or subject just before it. There are a couple different mnemonics that are commonly in use for memorizing the order of operations. The first is PEMDAS, and the second is BEMDAS. The acronym PEMDAS stands for parentheses, meaning you perform the operations within parentheses first, followed by exponents, then multiplication, division, addition, and subtraction. Another commonly used acronym is BEMDAS, which stands for brackets. This refers to parentheses or larger brackets. After performing the operations in these, you should perform operations on exponents, followed by division, multiplication, addition, and subtraction. As you can see here, the difference between PEMDAS and BEMDAS is the order in which you do multiplication and division. And the reason this occurs is because they're so closely related. But we'll cover a rule in a minute that will clear up this ambiguity when in doubt. Let's take a look at a couple of examples first. And these will illustrate why the order of operations are important. If you take the first equation, x is equal to 3 minus 2 times 5, if you didn't have any rules, one could rightly ask, do I subtract 2 from 3 first and then multiply by 5, in which case I would get 5? Or do I multiply 2 times 5 and subtract that from 3, in which case I would get negative 7? Here, as in many other subjects, the order does matter. Looking at the second example, we have x is equal to 3 minus 2 in parentheses times 5. Whether you're using PEMDAS or BEMDAS, it's clear that 3 minus 2 should be evaluated first and then multiplied by 5. Similarly, in the problem below, we see that you multiply 2 times 5, and the result of that is subtracted from 3. Aside from evaluating rules, these examples really show the importance of parentheses. When in doubt, you should always use parentheses to avoid confusion. In the next problem here, we can apply PEMDAS or BEMDAS to this. And so we subtract 2 from 3 because that's in the parentheses. And then the question becomes, do we subtract 3 from 5, or do we multiply what's inside the parentheses by 5, then subtract 3? In both of the methods above, multiplication comes before addition and subtraction. So here we would say 3 minus 2, which is equal to 1, times 5 is equal to 5, and then we minus 3, and we get 2 for the answer. This is made clear by the use of extra parentheses below. If we wanted to evaluate 3 minus 2 and 5 minus 3, parentheses would also help us out there. As you see below, we would write 3 minus 2 in parentheses times 5 minus 3 in parentheses. This would give you 1 times 2, which is equal to 2. So let's take a closer look at the methods we just discussed. In most cases, whether you do multiplication or division first won't necessarily matter, but there are some situations where you could get different answers depending on which you use. So the question is, in these types of cases, which one wins out, PEMDAS or BEMDAS? Let's use PEMDAS to solve the following problem. First, we have parentheses. Here we have 2 plus 2 inside parentheses, which is equal to 4. We don't have any exponents, and the next operation is multiplication. We have 2 times 4 is equal to 8, followed by division. We have 8 divided by 8, which gives us 1. So the answer using the PEMDAS method is 1. Now let's try this using the BEMDAS method. Again, we start with brackets or parentheses. Here we have 2 plus 2 is equal to 4. Next we do exponents. In this case we don't have any. Followed by division. So we would divide 8 by 2, which gives us 4. Next is multiplication. So where we're at right now, we have 4 times 4, and there's no additional addition or subtraction left over. So the answer we would get from this would be 16. So the following rule applies to all problems. Since multiplication and division are weighted equally in orders of operation, if there's ever any uncertainty, multiplication and division operations should be performed left to right. That means if it's unclear which you should do them in the order in which they appear. Let's apply that logic to this problem. First we'll do brackets or parentheses. In this case again we have 2 plus 2 is equal to 4. So what we have left over now is a multiplication and a division operation. Since the division operation comes first from left to right, we would take 8 and divide it by 2, which would give us 4. What we have left over is a multiplication operation, which is 4 times 4, and that gives us the answer of 16. So this in fact would be the answer. So the take home from this is, regardless of which method you're using, do parentheses and exponents first, but when you get to multiplication and division, do whichever shows up first from left to right, unless there are parentheses to guide you in the right direction. My rule of thumb, and the best way to do this, is to approach problems from the aspect of you can never have too many brackets or parentheses. Observe the following problem. This is the same as what we saw before, but we use brackets and parentheses liberally here. So what you have is 2 plus 2 inside parentheses. And the best way to start your approach is to always work from the innermost parentheses to the outer parentheses and then brackets. Here you have 2 plus 2 is equal to 4. Within the brackets you have 4 times 2, which is equal to 8. And then ultimately you have 8 divided by 8, which gives you 1. Alternatively, if you actually wanted to perform the operations in the way we just mentioned in the last slide, what you could write is 8 divided by 2 in parentheses times 2 plus 2 in parentheses. Since you evaluate what's inside the parentheses, on the left-hand side of brackets you would get 8 divided by 2, which is equal to 4. And the right-hand side of parentheses you would get 2 plus 2, which is also equal to 4. 4 times 4 is 16. So now that we've covered the basic principles, let's go ahead and take a break here. When we come back, we'll work a few more problems to solidify the concept in our minds.